All right. Um, I am continuing my personal tradition of every year around the time of MLK Day, I read his letter from a Birmingham jail. And here are the things that stuck out to me. There's three entries or excerpts that stuck out to me from this year's reading. The first one is when he's talking about weight. Um, he says, perhaps it's easy for those who have never felt the stinging darts of segregation to say wait. And then he goes on this pretty long tangent of just describing the gory details of um, racism and of violence. And then the last one that he says is, when you go forever fighting a degenerating sense of nobodiness, then you will understand why we find it difficult to wait. That one stands out to me because I've thought a lot in the past year about how it seems to me that the black man, especially, is still trying to create his own sense of cultural identity. And so he lives with a profound sense of nobodiness, as MLK put it. Like a profound sense of like my cultural identity, my heritage is just being somebody's bitch, just being somebody's slave. My identity is tied to inferiority and dependence on somebody else. And there's no sense of like inherent dignity and self-worth of like I am, like I can stand on my own and I am something. So that really stood out to me. And it's there's two I dropped two musical references that follow this train of thought. One is by Sho Baraka. He has a line where he says, "We fight for blackness, but we don't know what black is." And then my good friend Tay the Truth has a song called "My Black Is," and the whole idea is it's a song, it's a call and response song that gives opportunity for audience members to shout out what it means to be black. Tell you the truth, My Black Is. The beat was produced by 808 Ray. Roanoke guys. Shout out to y'all. So that's the first one. Second thing that stood out is it's kind of cool. I was able to like take notes and come up with just a bullet point sort of overview outline of the letter that just helps me understand his train of thought. It's interesting. I think that's definitely a white majority culture thing to do, is to make an outline of something and make a 3-paragraph essay. But it kind of did fit into that form, which is kind of funny. But anyway, the second thing that stood out to me, he was talking about, so when he's talking about his disappointment with the white church, he says, things are different now. He was referring to, there was a time when the church was very powerful, in the time of when early Christians rejoiced at being deemed worthy to suffer for what they believed. And then he says, things are different now. So often, the contemporary church is a weak, ineffectual voice with an uncertain sound. So often is it an arch defender of the status quo. Far from being disturbed by the presence of the church, the power structure of the average community is consoled by the church's silent and often even vocal sanction of things as they are. But the judgment of God is upon the church as never before. If today's church does not recapture the sacrificial spirit of the early church, it will lose its authenticity, forfeit the loyalty of millions, and be dismissed as an irrelevant social club with no meaning for the 20th century. God damn. Sheesh. That just, it's almost like he spoke that into existence in the 2020s, 2010s. He continues. He says, every day I meet young people whose disappointment with the church has turned into outright disgust. Case in point, my brother, I'm standing here right now, and I'm saying that. But I still have friends at the church. Just throw it out there. I was playing basketball and volleyball with them last night. Okay, so that's the second one. The third one is kind of a continuation of that, so I'll just go ahead and yeah, I'll go ahead and continue. Yep. I hope the church as a whole will meet the challenge of this decisive hour. But even if the church does not come to the aid of justice, I have no despair about the future. I have no fear about the outcome of our struggle in Birmingham, even if our motives are at present misunderstood. And here's what stood out to me. We will reach the goal of freedom in Birmingham and all over the nation because the goal of America is freedom. Abused and scorned though we may be, our destiny is tied up with America's destiny. Before the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth, we were here. Before the pen of Jefferson etched the majestic words of the Declaration of Independence across the pages of history, we were here. For more than 2 centuries, our forebears labored in this country without wages. They made cotton king. They built the homes of their masters while suffering gross injustice and shameful humiliation. And yet, out of a bottomless vitality, they continued to thrive and develop. In the inexpressible cruelties of slavery, if the inexpressible cruelties of slavery could not stop us, the opposition we now face will surely fail. We will win our freedom because the sacred heritage of our nation and the eternal will of God are embodied in our echoing demands. End quote. Even if you don't agree with the spiritual aspect of what he's saying, of like what he says is the eternal will of God are embodied in our echoing demands, which I think I agree with that. I'm still working out the confession of what I believe. But even if just take step aside from that, like just the story arc of the country of the United States, what he's saying is true. Like, before the Pilgrims, before Jefferson, before all of that shit, we were here, is what he's saying. There is no America that is a monogamous ethnicity, or like there's not, that has never existed. And so the story arc of the country is still being written to reflect the multiple ethnicities that have always been present. So yeah, those are the things that stood out to me in this year's reading of MLK's letter from a Birmingham jail. I plan to read it again next year. I think it'd be cool if I could do it with people next year and foster a conversation. But until then, those are my thoughts.